19, we went down the path into the down into up to couplet 38. So we're going the next path and moving into couplet 19. And I don't think that we have any announcements at the moment. Do we, Sam?
No, we don't. I don't.
We're around for another couple of weeks, and there'll be a little pause, and we're good to go. So take it away, gentlemen.
Joel, you take the lead.
All right, so couplet 19. This is kind of the last easy species that gets pulled out before you get into the mess that is the Viridatum group. So right here, this is just identifying Lasioglossum foveolatum, which is pretty rare. I've only seen maybe 1 or 2 specimens in my life. So it's rare, but it's pretty distinctive, pretty easy to recognize. So the supraclavicular area is different. It's kind of like bulging out more and kind of more of a brassy color as well. And then it's really coarsely punctate on the scutum, and especially the parapsital lines are coarser as well. They're broader. And because it's rare, I don't have any specimens, and I don't know if Sam does either. But
I'm looking up now. I've come across a few, so hopefully.
We just had some from Sheila.
Okay, so we'll have to take a look because I'm not seeing.
I had to look at that. So.
Oh, it used to be called supraclaviata, right?
right.
Maybe it's under that old. Oh yeah, I got it.
All right. Yes,
I had it under the old name. So yeah, there's only a couple records for Maryland, and oddly, I was in southern Indiana attending a family event and put out bowls, of course, and got a ton of them, which was the only time I've seen something that was close to it being common.
Oh, that is interesting. Once again, it's often the case that you have these rare bees, and it so happens like if you get lucky, you're in the right place at the right time, they're suddenly really common.
Yeah, this was, like edges of parking lots and other I wouldn't have expected it, let's say that, from where I was putting out traps. What do you want to see first in terms of a view?
Well, we can just start at the beginning of the couplet. So let's look at the face first.
Okay, I'm going to share and go to my things. Get rid of this ladybug. All right, I'll change it to the face view. Yeah, that's very distinctive. There's only a few other species that really have a bulging purplish supraclavius. And so for those species, though, it is a good character to look out for, like versans and perpunctatum. What else am I missing that has a bulgy supraclavial area?
There's a few in the west, not bulging so much, but they do have that kind of like purplish brassy color.
Yeah.
It's like Punctatoventure and Nevidense and some Caneri as well.
Yeah.
Have kind of a similar look.
All right. So I've got this here, but there's a little bit of dirt. That's that silvery part. I'll run my thing here, but this is quite prominent, and maybe it's faded a little bit, but it's very, very much so purplish when you have a fresh specimen. And you can't see it from this particular view, but it actually is quite humped up. And I think you said also it's got a very sparse set of pits. Sadly, I can't get any more magnification out of this. Anything else to add, Joel, there? Oh, that's reflections.
Nope, that's a pretty good view. You can even straight on, you can kind of tell by the reflections that it's very strongly convex.
Yeah, these are reflections, I just realized, yes. Okay, shall we?
It's like black, kind of non-metallic black in the middle, and then it grades into purple and then brassy until it gets to the green of the rest of the head.
Yeah. You can even see from this angle, if we shoot down to the scutum, how wide the nautiluses or whatever the what's the other name for nautiluses?
The key calls them the parapsidal lines.
Yeah. And I'll shift to that. That combo is just so distinct. If only we had more specimens, species.
Yes, not all Dialictus are difficult.
So these are, I'm not sure what those reflections are, but these big things here are the parapsidal lines, which are just massive. Has anything else got anything that wide? So normally, you know, they're like more like this, skinny little things. Are you aware?
Some other ones that get close to that.
Mm-hmm.
It tends to happen as the punctures in general get bigger and coarser. As you can see, like the punctures on the scutum are also quite large and coarse on this bee. So the grooves on the scutum also tend to get wider as a like just in the same way. But
Yeah.
I can't think of any other species off the top of my head that have these wide grooves for the parapsidal lines that have those consistently.
Yep. Okay, do we want to see anything else on this specimen, or should we jump back to the guide?
I think we can jump back to the guide. Hopefully there's a
All right, I've stopped sharing. I've stopped sharing. If you want to share with the guide. Or Claire.
All right. So then we go to couplet 20 if you don't have a foveolatum. And couplet 20 is where you're going to spend a lot of time if you're in the east. This is the beginning of the Viridatum group, which is very, very common in the east. You're pretty much always going to get some of these, and they're very difficult to identify. It also occurs in the west, but it's somewhat less common there. So the first split that Jason does here in the Viridatum group is how much tomentum is on the metasomal terga, and whether or not there are fringes on the rims of those terga. So there's a set of species that have almost no tomentum and no fringes on the rims. And then the other set has more tomentum, or sometimes it's sparse, but then they'll still have distinct fringes on the rims. So we can look at some specimens that are lacking that tomentum first, I think.
Yeah, the lacking ones are reasonable. It's the little phrase there, virtually absent, which means they can have some hairs, and then you're second guessing yourself all over the place. At least I do.
And I need to quick grab something.
So you're going to show something, right, Joel? You have an example.
All right, yes, I was going to show a Marinense, or what I think is Marinense. Not 100% sure about any of these.
So this is a Western species.
Yep. So this is one that is lacking the tomentum on the metazoma. And Marinense actually will be completely lacking. It won't be just virtually absent. It'll be completely unmistakably absent.
We're not seeing anything on screen.
Yeah, I'm still getting the B position.
Okay.
I had to go grab the little wax blob that I use for holding the specimens. All right.
In the key.
It would not be in the key, almost for sure, because it's a Western. It'll be in one of their other keys, but
It is. So we're in the Canada key, and
we are.
Canada
Okay.
key does occur in Western Canada, so it is in the key.
Okay.
All right, so that's ready now, so I can go ahead and share. And if you want to get a counterexample positioned and ready, Sam, something that has more tomentum on it.
What do you suggest?
I don't know, anything like an admirandum or
Oh, okay.
Dialictus or Sajax, any of those that have more of that tomentum in the fringes.
Yeah, I'll try and get something a little like Ephialtum is probably good.
All right, so now I'm sharing my screen, and this is a Lasioglossum marinense, and
Black, but not green.
Right. It's all black.
It says I'm sharing another window. Let me try again.
Oh, that's there we go. Oh, this one's on.
Is it still black?
Yes.
I don't know what's going on. I told it to share the Leica application, and it doesn't. Then it says I'm sharing another window. It says I'm not sharing that one.
So when I'm doing, I don't know what your thing says, but when I'm sharing, I choose the share my computer so that everyone sees wherever my screen is, rather than picking an application. Not sure if that's helpful. You might have to unshare and then reshare, perhaps.
So your entire screen. Then... Can you see it now?
Nope. Still black. Is there some way to turn off your share? Why don't I share mine?
I've tried turning it off a few times.
Here, let me share mine. Then maybe it will rethink sharing yours. Okay, so I'm going to do that. All right, so I'm sharing my screen rather than a window. And do people see that now? Okay, so that's good. Now I will stop sharing. And maybe magically you can share.
All right, let's see. am sharing my entire screen.
Still black for whatever reason. It's possible you may have to dial out and back. And then in the meantime, I can show people the Ephialtum. How about that?
Let's do that.
Joel. Maybe he's already.
I just tried unplugging my camera.
Oh, okay.
Did anything?
We aren't seeing anything right now, except for
Well,
nobody
I
seems to.
stopped sharing.
Okay.
So yeah, I can hang up and get back in and try.
Okay. And then I will share my screen and I'll show an Ephialtum so that when you come back with your bare-butted thing, we have the contrast. All right. So I'm going to share screen and flip to my microscope and take down the magnification. So we're looking at Ephialtum, which I believe is Latin for nightmare, in keeping.
That is correct.
In keeping with the group.
Actually,
And
technically Latinized Greek.
Latinized Greek. All right. That is technical. And so, yeah, I've always had, I think I've, got the species Gestalt. This one was actually identified by Jason, but it's you start second. The problem is, as Joel will talk about, you just start second guessing. So Joel, are you up and at 'em now? Do you want to talk about this, or do you want me to talk about it while you're working on things, or what?
Well, I can talk about this while you have it up.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So you have a good view of the metazoma there, and the tomentum that you're looking for this, the purposes of this couplet, is those oppressed feathery hairs at the basolateral corners of each segment. So right where Sam has his crosshair, there's very thick, kind of feathery hairs that are lying flat on the integument, and that is the tomentum. It's always going to be in the upper corners like that, and sometimes, like if you look at the fourth segment, it's not just in the corners, it's kind of spread all across the segment. And it's mixed, and it's kind of mixed in with more normal, like simple CD on the fourth segment as well. So that's the tomentum. And then those fringes that it was also referring to are not as visible in this view. They'd probably be more visible if you kind of rotated it so it is more like looking at it, like tilted it a little bit more so you're like kind of from a more posterior oblique angle. Yeah. Like kind of, so you get a good view of like the posterior rims of the segments.
Is that angle good?
More end on, I think.
Okay.
Good.
You want it? Well, let's take a look at here, and then you can tell me whether you want more end or less end. Let me take it back down here. Hang on. I think I just need to reposition it with the head into the clay to really get an end on one. Something like that, Joel?
Yeah, I think that will make the fringes more visible. Perhaps. We'll see.
So again, we've spoken about this in the past. I've often struggled with the concept of fringes in Lasioglossum.
Yeah,
Joel will enlighten us.
It's not a great character. I'll freely admit that. But when you get to the Viratum group, there just aren't really any great characters. You just kind of have to take what there is. So, okay.
Are you talking about these hairs here?
So there'll be kind of like some short, seedy on that are kind of like on the, so there's the disc that's kind of raised, and then there's the depressed apical rim. And there's a bunch of long seedy that kind of arise on the disc, and then they overlap that depressed rim. And that's not the fringe you're looking for.
Okay. So in other words, just to clarify, not these hairs, because here's the depressed rim and here's the disc. So, and then here is a line of hairs that are originating kind of right along that juncture. And you're saying not these.
Right. We can't actually see your mouse moving, but I
Oh, you can't. Oh,
what you're talking
okay.
about.
All right. I think some people can see it. Claire said can you see it, Claire?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're seeing the crosshair at it now?
Yep.
Okay. All right. I don't know. We'll see. You may have a misbehaving link there, Joel, but we're hearing you. All right. So what I'm looking at is what would be T3, and I described that center area where the long hairs arc over the depressed rim. But
Yep.
Okay.
So the apical fringe is like further onto the rim. So there'll be much shorter, thinner, fine seedy, kind of sitting on the very rim of the segment. And you can actually, I think you can actually see a few of them. It looks a bit worn.
on T4 or T3 or both?
They're going to be at the very edge, the lateral edge of T3. There's a few.
In that shine, you can't see my cursor apparently, but there's a shinier area. So the lightest area seems
further lateral than that.
Okay. I see a very, boy, that is, I think I see where you're talking about. Yeah, that is subtle.
Yeah, so I would say there's not really much of a fringe here. The
Okay.
only reason that you would go, let's see, what couplet? The only reason that you would go to couplet 26 from here is because of that tomentum.
Yeah.
The fringe is not really very visible, but you can see a few. There's a few seedy at the very edge there.
Yeah.
And those are going to be more what you're looking for. If there's a strong apical fringe, it's going to look like that, but usually denser.
Yeah. And I mean, when we get to Planata, which is a very ambiguous species, it'll be interesting to discuss this same thing. Do you want to try your specimen, or is there anything else on this specimen you want me to show?
I can try mine again.
Okay.
I'm
not gonna stop sharing. Let's see if you can actually take over.
All right. If it doesn't work, then we might have to just rely on you for this class.
Yeah. So. Oh, nope. I thought I was seeing something happening on screen. It's clear that you are doing something over there, but can you move your cursor just to see if we can see a cursor movement?
I am moving my cursor.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not getting anything. So for whatever reason, it's not processing your screen at all. Like, no, it's just black.
That is, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what is the problem. It seems like this just happens occasionally, that just Teams has bad days.
Apparently. So would you like me to pull specimens in for you?
Yeah, if you've got any that have the other state with the tome and tom and no fringe.
What about oblongum?
That'll
Is that a
work.
good one? Right. Which is a very common one in certain places in our region, and they seem to have at least a little bit of an affinity for wetlands. And oblongum. Let's see if this is a good specimen. The wings are covering the abdomen too much on that one. Let me try and get another one. Okay, hopefully we have a clear shot of the abdomen here. Yeah, looks like it. Have no head, but the abdomen is nicely presenting. Sliding it up. I assume you want to have that same sort of shot with sort of towards the rear again.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna get in there, share, screen. Take it down a notch. Over the time we've been doing this, I've gotten actually better at finding the darn specimen in the viewfinder. So many positives. Okay. So I'm going to wiggle my cursor. Can you see that, Joel, or not?
Oh, well, it moved a bit. Okay, it's kind of jerky, but it is moving.
Okay. All right. That's good. At least we got that far. All right. What do you want me to show here?
So the rim is pretty much visible here. And yep, there's a couple of sparse short ceti on the very rim. So that's kind of where that fringe would be if there was one. This is kind of a fringe, but it's very sparse, hardly there at all. It's not what you would call a strong apical fringe. But if there were more of those ceti on the rim there, then you might call that a strong apical fringe. And then if you focus more towards the base of the segment.
Do you want me to do that on the segment, the 3 here? Like,
yeah.
Or do you want you maybe up at the top?
Up at the top. So there's.
It's kind of dark up there. Maybe I'm going to shift it a little bit.
Well.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know what segment is. That looks like It looks like T3 that is kind of center screen right now. So if you focus on the base of T3, this is what's called virtually absent tome and tom.
I think actually there's either none or that might even be dirt. No, I guess there's some like minute hairs going on there.
Yep. So there's a couple of feathery tomentose hairs there, but they're not in a dense patch, and they're only at the extreme base. So that if the segments were kind of like more retracted if they're not telescoped out, those tomentose hairs would not even be visible. They would be under the rim of the preceding segment.
Yeah. This is quite exposed. You can see by the length here on T3 that probably would be under T2's rim in most of the specimens.
Yep. So in this case, this is what we mean by virtually absent, where it's like just a few scattered hairs that are like not even always visible.
And in T4 here, there really aren't any. So if I refocused down here, this would be T4. You really can't see anything going on here. I mean, that's dirt.
Yeah. A couple of those might be kind of. Well, a couple of those might be tomentose hairs, but
Okay.
it's pretty much absent.
Okay. So there's a bit of the landscape. I mean, it's relatively easy when it's like this, basically nothing, and it's also like or very hairy, like Admirandum and Ephialtum and things. It's those kind of in between ones. Planatum, Subviridatum sometimes has, hair more than this one on
Yeah.
T2. Yeah, it gets murky.
Planatum especially is very tricky. I'm not totally sure what to make of that species.
Yeah.
And Subviridatum actually has pretty weak fringes.
Mhm.
It's just that it has more tomentum.
Yeah.
Bits of the segments.
So what would you like me to show now?
So I
Or do you want to go to the guide?
Yeah, I think we can. I think we've covered couplet 20 thoroughly enough. And I think we can go on to 21. So 21, this is the set of species that have the virtually absent or totally absent tomentum and no strong apical fringes on the rims. So there's a smaller number of species with this character state. And aside from Planatum, they're not that hard to recognize for the Viridatum group. So the next couplet, 21, is this mosquito punctures if they're okay. Yep. So this is a new couplet that I added when we did the update to the Canada key. Yep. I forgot this was here. So this actually pulls out two species, Canari and subversans, that are not in the Viridatum group, but they're highly variable bees that can sometimes run this way. And I actually have some that I was going to show, but since my share is not working, maybe we can just look at the figures that are in the key.
Well, you were, Joel, there was a slightly successful thing, which was that you saw the cursor. So I'm wondering if you could share, but also Claire's got the key up, it looks like, in figures.
Oh, want me to try sharing again?
I would say let's do it one more time.
All right, anything?
Nope. All right, we'll give up on that for today. But Claire had had some of your figures.
All right, so these are so Canari is a western species and subversans is boreal. And Canari is pretty common in the west. Subversans is quite rare. So if you're in the east, you're probably not going to find these. If you're in the west, it's highly likely that you're going to get some Canari. And it starts out with the scutum punctures, whether or not they're relatively sparse or relatively dense. But the second character in that couplet actually is the more reliable one, I think. Maybe not always easy to see if the metazoma is folded up, but the carinatorial fan or T1 fan, is it composed of very, very short, non-overlapping hairs, or is it composed of longer hairs that overlap each other? And Canari and subversans have kind of a unique fan shape where it's this very, very short CD that don't overlap each other, and it's like someone took a razor and shaved it, is what it looks like. And the other species, all the Virdatum groups, will have longer, shaggier hairs that overlap to some extent. So there's a figure 20. If you look at figure 20, it shows an example of what that looks like.
Can you see your screen? Because Claire is showing it right now.
Yep.
Okay.
I was looking at my copy of the key. It just switched over.
Okay.
Yeah, there it is. So on the left there, that's what the Canari and subversans fans look like. And it's actually quite different from anything in the Virdatum group.
It's more like stubble.
Yep, like stubble, like someone shaved it. And that's actually an example of a little bit of a more worn specimen. So normally Canari and subversans have complete fans, and they wouldn't run this way. But occasionally, you get specimens the fan on these species is especially prone to wear for some reason. So you occasionally get specimens that look incomplete like that, and then they'll run this way. So if you're in the West, a lot of the specimens you get will have much denser fans, but they're still going to have like stubble like that.
Mm-hmm. So in the previous key, that differentiation of worn specimens falling into this pocket was not made, and they would have been considered complete fans, and that's why they would have keyed out that direction.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is a new kind of like safety feature that we added in the updated key, because I noticed like there's a lot of these Canari specimens that actually would run into the Virdatum group. All right, so hopefully that is pretty straightforward.
Okay. Maybe go back up, Claire.
So then we can go on to couplet 22. And at this point, this is when there's two species that have longer heads than the other Virdatum groups. There's Planatum, which is fairly common-ish, and Taylory, which is very rare. They're very similar, very closely related. And these species have longer heads, and they have very smooth propodiums. Kind of the two characters that are used to diagnose these. And the other ones are going to have shorter heads, more like not super short, but much more round. And then the podium is going to be much more extensively rugose or striped.
So I have both those uncommon species, so I will. Well, Planatum can be common, but it's relatively rare, and I'm always hesitant. I'm not even sure I'm going to include it in Bees of Maryland, because I'm just not 100% sure on some, but I'm going to go back and review them. So
yeah, so if you want to show, let's see, what should we show first? Maybe a Planatum.
I've got, yeah, good. I've got
Planatum. If you've already got a Oblongum under the scope, maybe we could show that and show the propodium.
Well, no, I don't. I've got Planatum now.
Okay.
So, but you're saying that here, let me tilt it a little bit more. You're saying that Oblonga is more the round head one, I presume.
Right.
Planatum. But I have some Taylory. Someone gave me a bunch because I don't think I've ever collected it. All right. There's the head.
Yep, it's kind of hard to see if you don't have a direct comparison, but this is longer. This is a longer face than you would see in the other species like oblongum or subvirdatum. This is a bit of a longer head than you would typically see in those.
Yeah, so these are illustrated in your guides, and this also illustrates the point of trying to get reference specimens.
Yep.
Um,
So the other thing to look at with planatum is the propodium.
mhm.
Actually, there's a third character that's actually not in the key, but is also kind of useful. And that is that the mesopisternum is also going to be very smooth in planatum.
And yeah, planatum is more of a northern thing. Oh, let me tilt it a little bit more so we can see in there.
You have planatum on deck, correct?
This is planatum, yes.
Yeah. So this is a little bit more rough of a propodium than is maybe typical, certainly more than in the type.
Mhm.
But you can see that there's like one carina in the middle of the propodium that almost reaches the edge. And then laterat of that, especially to the left, there's shorter ridges that get like maybe like halfway or a little bit more than halfway, and they don't reach the posterior rim of the propodium. And that's what you're looking for here. So the posterior edge of the propodium is going to be smooth and kind of more rounded over. And I should note that the propodium sculpture is actually really variable just in general within Dialictus species. It's not really a good character, but again, there's so few good characters in the Virdatum group, you just kind of have to take whatever seems to work. So there's some planatum where this will be like almost totally smooth. There'll be no ridges at all. And then there's some more like this where it's like a little bit stronger. And like if you look over on the right side of the image, there's some ridges there that seem to like pretty much reach the edge.
It might be just dark. Yeah.
Yeah, that might be an illusion. But even if it's an illusion, like sometimes like you'll be looking at a specimen and it will be really hard to decide, is that smooth or not? Do those ridges reach the edge or not? So just because of that variability, it's often hard to decide one way or the other, and that's why this is such a tricky species.
Yeah.
So it helps to have a long series, because
Yeah.
then you can kind of see, like, if you have a long series of specimen, you can say, like, okay, on average, this morpho species has a pretty smooth propodium.
And that's why something like this, these planatums often get set aside during the initial run through the whole collection of Dialictus that you have, and then you come back to them. And a lot of times when you come back to these specimens, like Joel mentioned, there is a realization from looking at a long string that's helpful. And the struggle beforehand, I tend to tell people to minimize. Like if it's like, I'm not sure, well, that should be where you stop. Put it aside, come back to it, and usually it'll get clarified by patterns amidst everything.
Yeah,
We can
so
show.
then, if you show an oblongum next, I think that'll be like, oblongum is like the complete opposite. The oblongum has a very, very strongly sculptured propodium and a very short face, so it'll be a very stark contrast to make it easier to see.
I want to show this thing, which is that maybe I won't, maybe it's blocked here, but essentially there's a bit more of the hairs on T2 and T3. This is not showing well because of the wing is in the way, but I could see it actually in the last picture that in planatum, darn it. Maybe I'll do upside down. There is just a tiny smidge more of the virtually absent situation in the hairs on T2 and T3. And that varies a little bit too, but you can see like, you know, here's a bit of a smidge over here. You can see a little bit more sneaking in, and then it gets into that, oh, is that virtually absent or not? These are some of the kind of things that make seeing these things out difficult. And you can see down here on T4, there's a few more. So, but none of that little fringy stuff, except for maybe a tiny few hairs there.
Yeah.
But it's tricky. All right, I'll get out Oblongum. So yeah, with Oblongum, it's the very strong and relatively sparse striations on the propodium are a really pretty good key when I'm seeing that. And then I see a virtually absent tomentum and a relatively dark blue coloration and a lot of tessellation on the scutum. I know where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
I've got an oblongum.
Yep. So Oblongum is actually one of the easier Viridautum group species to recognize. Just because it is such a stark contrast to some of the others like Planatum.
Which doesn't mean you're not going to struggle when you're trying to key it out and you're in second guessing mode.
When I say easy for the Viridautum group, that does not mean easy in general.
Right. This one, this is oblongum, and I'll bring the head in here on this shot.
It's really third on oblongum in your cheat sheet, which include, besides the no hairs, that the scutum has pits that are really widely separated.
Yeah, so there's a few characters that actually they might be, if you look at the 2010, the original Canada revision, some of these might be in Jason's diagnosis. But there's a few other characters that are not in the key to look out for with Oblongum. So yeah, like the scutum is more distinctive, and then also T1 is going to be very shiny, and the gap in the middle of the fan is going to be very wide.
Right.
In the species. And
also the mesepisternum, at least in the upper part, is quite rugose, quite
yes,
mountainous.
That's another good one. Yes, it almost looks. I've seen a few specimens that actually I would have keyed out earlier and gone the way that Viridautum goes. So like couplet 18, when you say, is the mesepisternum rugulose to tessellate, or is it strongly rugose? And that just pulls out Viridautum and Atwoodi. There's maybe a few Oblongum that would go that way as well.
Yeah.
Because it does tend to have a pretty strongly sculptured mesepisternum. But I think the reason that it doesn't, at least in the reason that it doesn't go that way, is because it's not going to be completely strongly rugose. So like the upper part is very strongly rugose, but the lower part is
Smooths out.
Not.
I'll just jump in. You're right. In the 2010 paper, there's a picture of what you were just describing, and there's also an oblongum planatum direct comparison of what we were doing, the propodium.
So here you can see the relatively shorter head, which is relatively easy in comparison, but when you're only looking at one, this is the problem with Dialictus, is you often do need those strings to make sure you're not misidentifying things or misidentifying characters and building confidence. So should I shift to the propodium? I mean the propodial triangle?
Yeah, sure.
Joel?
Yep,
Okay.
this is a pretty good view of the head. You can see it's quite round, and that's kind of all you need to see. And
I think we can see. I was afraid the wings were hiding, but I think we can peek through, and if not, we can go back to the other one.
oh yeah, this is another reason why it can be so tricky to identify these, is because so many of the characters are in places that are going to be covered up if the wings are folded over the back.
Yeah, so not the greatest of shots. But you can see the striations going almost all the way, or probably do go all the way. There's a little bit of dirt there. I can try and pull the second specimen out. Why don't I do that? Because the propodium is much more observable. Does the oblongum go very far to the north?
It does, yes. So in my experience, anyway, it tends. You said you find it in wetlands, and
Yeah,
I tend to find it
in wetlands.
I tend to find it in forests quite a bit.
Ah, well,
But
it is supposedly nesting in under bark and rotting areas, and a lot when we down here in our wetlands, they're often a bunch of flooded out trees, and two, they're near forests. So maybe it is both.
Yep, it could be both, and often there are a lot of wetlands in forests as well. At least in Minnesota, there is.
Yeah. All right, we'll see if we can see both the propodium here and the very, very, this is a good shot, I think. You can see the propodium, propodial triangle, and the very, very wide, these are just little patches off to the side there of hairs on the T1 aconarial fan. So
that is
this
a
is
prime example.
Yeah. And you can see here that just there is, so the, there is often the central striation is a little more prominent, but everything else is widely spaced, running to the edges. And that's a really kind of classic podial triangle.
Yep.
As what, and the white spaces on there. And you can see not hard, there's really no hairs. You can barely see on the, we'll move down to see the abdomen a little bit. Mostly that's dirt. And like we saw the last time, there's, oh, maybe this was the one we were looking at. There's just a few of these hairs that are exposed. All right. What's next, Jason? Not Jason, Joel.
Let's
Oh.
see. All right, so that was couplet 22. So separating Taylori and planatum from Marinense and oblongum and subviridatum. So couplet 23 is separating Taylori from planatum, which is pretty difficult to do. It relies on very, very subtle differences in mesovesternum sculpture.
Mm-hmm.
In the interest of time,
I
maybe we should jump ahead and just talk about subviridatum.
Okay. Well, we can go back next time when we have a little more time. I do have both Taylori and planatum, so we could get into it since they're separate species, but maybe not now.
Yeah. Subviridatum, I would say, is much more important to deal with because that is an extremely common species.
And definitely a forest one.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if I have a good specimen here. This looks lovely. What do you want to see on this, Joel, first?
All right, so the Mesoscutum is kind of the primary character here to pull out subviridatum in couplet 24. So the scutum in subviridatum is going to be very distinctly shiny, hardly any microsculpture on there. And that is contrasted with the other two species that go this way, Marinense and oblongum, which are going to have much duller mesoscutum.
But it's not complete. Another one that I remember struggling with initially was it's not completely absent of microstructure. It's just a lot less, and it presents more glossally. As you can see here, it's reflecting a lot of light, but there still is little tiny lines on there. It's just subtly, and I think that's a difficult thing for me and maybe others to get, is that it is shiny, but look, there is little tiny lines still in there, just not as much.
Yeah, especially at the edges, those little lines might be stronger and it might be duller at the edges, but at the very least in the middle of the scutum, it should be quite shiny.
Yeah, and usually you can see that, but I often have to kind of put together a little list of additional things, you know, lack of hair, bigger a canarial fan, and those kinds of things to build my confidence on these things. But a lot of times, you know, if you're in the woods, you know what direction you're going to go on this. You can see in the acanarial fan, which has got a little, you know, this is much more extensive than oblongum. And I don't know if there's anything on the, really to see on the propodial triangle, but on the rear, you get into a very few pits on the T1 or T2 and T3. Try and get a shot here. So, and then Joel, you can bring up what you look for. They do show up in fields a little bit, but really it is such a woodland-oriented species.
Yep, and then actually so the punctures are going to be very sparse on T2 and T3, but the the other character in the key to look for here is that subviridatum, it doesn't have a lot of tomentum, but it has at least some obvious patches in those basolateral corners. So like if you remember back to when we were looking at oblongum, that one had like just those couple of scattered hairs that would be probably covered up under the preceding segment unless they're really pulled out. Subviridatum has a bit more. It's still not a lot, but there are distinct patches, and I think those will be more visible if you move
spin
up
it.
to T2 a little bit. I saw some on T2. Yep, up there. So on the next segment up, I think it's more obvious.
Oh, is that T2 or is that T1 up there?
That's not T1. I think that's T2 up there.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so right there in that corner, you can see it's not a big patch, but it is a distinct patch of tomentum on this segment. So that is more than oblongum or marinense are ever going to have.
And this is what makes Dialictus fun, is we get to split hairs.
Yes, exactly. Literally split hairs.
All right. Well, this might be a good stopping place. We can talk next time about some of the species. You know, I know we haven't brought in Abanki, and then the difference between Taylor-A and Planatum. I'd like to spend a little time on that myself. That would be fun.
Yep, that's getting into the realm where I am very not confident in telling those species apart. I just haven't seen very many of them.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be nice if we could get Jason back for those ones.
Yeah. Where is Jason?
I think he was busy with taking care of his son, I think is why he couldn't make it anymore.
Okay.
I think he said it was like this time this semester.
So, well, maybe we can get a special order from him.
Yeah.
We can involve his son.
We have so many couplets to go through. This is impressive. How long?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is for most people the trickiest part, and there's also many, many different species here to deal with, and it's common. You get tons and tons of Dialictus, so you really want to be able to move through that ship.
We'll probably review the Planatum Taylor-A and then move on from there.
Yeah.
So it's like couplet 26-ish.
And then there's also couplet 25. We didn't cover marinense versus oblongum.
Yeah.
Actually, that one is not very difficult because that's pretty much just splitting by geography. Is it eastern or western? Yeah, we can cover Taylor-A and Planatum and then move on to the ones that have dense tomentum and fringes.
Okay. All right. Thanks as always, Jason and Claire, and participants for keeping us going.
You speak.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.